Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sue Minahan, Talk Cosmos. Today, we are talking about the moon cycles, and we are actually, I was just totally reflecting our kaleidoscope nature of this panel, because it's like a steamboat rolling through the universe with air, air, of course, but water and fire, along with air, the whole 9 yards, as we often say in this country of the USA. But we are talking about the moon. It's a personal planet. It moves the fastest through the Zodiac, and it has a systematic cycle. We're talking about the first major 4. But there's an Aries fire with a Libra air and the North Node in Pisces, and it's interacting with this enormous steam, water, fire, and very powerful, along with Neptune, because we had a little shift, just like going between the last sign of Pisces to the first sign of Aries. We also had a merging of what was the seed kernel. Well, Neptune happened the day after the first new moon, which happened to be an eclipse. So it's a powerhouse that we're talking about, and I need my teammates to help me work through this. And we are now ready for Kaleidoscope Visions.
Understanding the cosmic energies influencing our consciousness by the 4 major moon phases for the month, this is your Kaleidoscope Visions panel.
I'm Sue Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
I'm Amanda Pierce. I'm a soul-centered astrologer, blending intuition into my practice. I believe the universe is always working for our highest good and seek to empower my clients in our readings. I teach a 4-week series of empowerment-based meditation classes that connect you deeper into your own intuition and innate power. I work in communications with a passion for employee experience. I also have a BA in psychology. I'm passionate about healing and enjoy helping others create new realities and shift old paradigms.
And I'm John Chinworth, a Seattle astrologer with more than 25 years' experience. I use a blend of evolutionary, traditional, and archetypal techniques and constantly attend workshops and lectures to further hone my skills. I hold an MFA in poetics, an MA in teaching, and an astrological diploma. I've lectured at NORWAC and served on the WSAA board. I have worked in general and special education classrooms, both as a teacher and mentor. I also enjoy reading, penning poems, riding a bike, and going on road trips around the great state of Washington.
And like the Sufi poet Rumi says, you are the entire ocean in a drop.
Hello again, John Chinworth and Amanda Pierce.
Hello, lovely to be with you again.
Good to be back.
Yes, indeed. What a powerful start. Of course, we know immediately that the solar eclipse was, a few days ago, but the energy lasts on. It's like a lingering song, yes?
Yeah, it's like solar eclipses allow for big changes and shifts to happen, and it's like dropping a pebble in a lake, and the ripples just keep going out and out. And so we'll see the biggest ripples right now with this month coming up, and this is our seed period for that.
Absolutely. And it's when the new moon is within 18 degrees of the lunar nodes. Happens twice a year, 2 pairs. We had the lunar 2 weeks ago, and now this is the solar that was on the 29th of March. Did you have a comment there, John?
When I think of eclipses, I think of teaching and learning. These eclipses always bring in something to teach and learn. And the solar eclipses focus a little bit more on the teaching side, and lunar on the learning side. So, what are we here to teach?
Oh boy, I like that. I'm going to jot that down. Learn. Okay. Here's a cycle. It happens every 28 days, actually 29 and a half when it finishes up, going from the 4 cycles. And we'll review that chart as far as a little bit here going forward. These are the dates. It was March 29th for the solar eclipse at 9 degrees Aries. And you can read these and we'll go through them too. Out of bounds is when a planet exceeds the elliptical path of the sun, which is 23.44 degrees. Sometimes I think it's 26, but it's 44, I believe. And the moon is back and forth for the next, it has a period of 10 years. It's back and forth, and we're within that 10 years. So it may be a few days in, a few days out. But for the first and third quarters, it will be out of bounds. And Mars has been out of bounds ever since January 1st, and it will stop on the 7th. So after the first quarter, it finally will be not out of bounds.
And for the first time, we won't have planets out of bounds, because that's been going on for a while, right?
Well, Mars has been out of bounds for 3 solid months, going into 4. However, the moon goes back and forth for 10 years. It has a cycle where it's called a standstill, I believe, is what the new verbiage is, or I've picked up on. But the point is, it's 10-year cycle, but it's not consistent. It fluctuates within that 10-year period. So you just have to check, is it out of bounds or not? Where's the latitude? But if it's past 23 degrees, 44 minutes, or 26 minutes, I've got to get that nailed, it is out of bounds. Pluto will be going out of bounds. I was born with Pluto out of bounds because it stays out of bounds for a number of years. It's not very far, but it's still out of bounds. I mean, Pluto doesn't go very far.
And planets, when they're out of bounds, they're not bound to the standard ways of movement or thinking or behaving that they typically archetypally
right.
are. Yeah, so it allows for different options to come forward and for us to make different decisions that are maybe we wouldn't have otherwise.
Very important. It really truly is a overlay. For instance, people have been commenting about their Mercury's out of bounds, and their forward thinkers are not necessarily forward, but just out of the box thinkers. And however they choose to facilitate that matters. Our president happens to have an out of bounds Mercury, but then many, 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 many people do. He's not alone. It's just an indication. I have Venus and Uranus and Pluto out of bounds. So anyway.
That makes a lot of sense to me, Sue.
I'm a Mercury, Mars, Venus out of bounds in my natal chart. And
we'll have to.
I've said this before. I think of the out of bounds planets as, I'll say it again, the roller coaster thing where they're going over the top of the roller coaster and they're feeling that pull, and you have a little bit more gravity to swing around and say what you want. So you also have to be careful about, well, what am I doing here? How far is my reach? Kind of
is
thing.
it?
Mars,
yes,
right?
because there is. That's right, because there isn't necessarily the safeguards of some other context, although the world does manage to respond, thankfully. Yeah, so we're having on the 29th of March, just passed, and the dispositor, of course, is Mars. And Mars is still in Cancer. We'll be moving to Leo. And this shows a diagram where it's actually, I find it so interesting. The shadow of Earth is blocking the light. That means all our shadows, right? That we're getting through. It's like a materialization of that physicality.
New awareness.
Yes, thank you. This is a general chart, but let's get into the first one. There's a couple of stelliums that want to stay there. In Pisces, the last sign, and in Aries, the first sign.
Lots of Aries, lots of Pisces. That's been a theme for a little while. So how do you combine the I'm going to go forward and do what I want with Aries, and the total acceptance, letting go of Pisces. So you have this combination of energies that are kind of difficult to blend, I think.
I think, too, I missed a point. I think, Amanda, you were going to talk about the cycles. Weren't you going to do that?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So let's just talk about the new moon. What is a new moon? It's this kind of a seeding period for the month emotionally, where we're starting at. It's kind of the seed is planted and it begins to sprout, and it's like, it's a birthing process. It's like an inhale. So in this phase, we're acting from instinct, essentially, and we're taking in new information. And so with the solar eclipse, there's a lot of information to take in, and we'll be kind of processing that ongoing for a while, even beyond this month.
Thank you. Yes. And John, this very fact you were recapping here between the last and the seed. In other words, it's the womb. It's where does it all, just a finishing point, and then what wants to emerge. Yes? Is that what you were saying too?
Yeah, I remember a talk from a conference a long time ago, and the speaker talked about Pisces comes first because everything comes out of Pisces. Even the light of Aries is born within Pisces. So we're at this birthing place, right? And it's spring, and so like possibilities, definitely, not only in the new moon, but in this weird configuration of all these Pisces and Aries planets.
And I needed to put a little circle around Chiron, the key here, and Aries, because that square isn't to all of it. It's just to Chiron and Aries. And so we're energized to find out what's the truth of ourselves, our wound, how are we going to manifest that? It's one of the gear points, it seems.
Yeah, the whole month is there is that the Aries and the Pisces dynamic coming forward, and like that conflict between taking action and reflecting, or your individual drive and collective empathy. So we're trying to find this balance and this integration of all of this information. We're getting a ton of information coming through with Pisces, and as it moves into Aries, how do we keep that and ground that and still take action moving forward? Because Pisces isn't really an action archetype. It's there, it's absorbing, it's taking it all in, and we're getting a lot of that right now. And with the Aries, we are asked to start to move forward with it.
It seems that we are strategizing a bit, because I'm looking at Pallas, the asteroid here, with Jupiter, the big picture. It's like, exactly, case in point there, Amanda, taking this to make plans. Because remember, folks, the solar eclipse that we're talking about lends energy forward. So we're talking about a real springs, one of the seed points of how we're operating as an overlay.
I think strategy is a great word, and it makes me think back to the fact that we're in a snake year, and I have this plan to keep referring back to the snake year with these charts, because every time I look back on a year, I'm like, oh wow, that really represented things.
I like it.
So with the snake year, there was a lot of strategy. Like, that's how things help us. So if we can strategize, if we can think ahead, stay calm under pressure. So I think with a lot of Aries,
because it's transforming. Snakes are transforming. To bring that thought to people's brains.
Absolutely, and it's a slow process, right? It's the shedding of the skin.
I was just going to say that the shedding of the skin, the old Pisces is the old cycle coming to an end, and you're reborn in Aries. Yeah.
And go ahead.
I wanted to say about Pisces being the collective, what all of humanity knows. We have all this. Where are we now? We've been through all this history, and we have to individualize it, put it into action. Maybe think about it. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And Juno too. I'm thinking with our strategies, it's not just abstract, but it's our relationships. Who are we partnering with? What's our alliances? Because Juno is the wife. She had symbolically the wife of the head of all the the gods in the sky, Zeus or Jupiter.
She kind of, to me, represents the other. You're constantly thinking about the other and how this will affect them, because Juno was always thinking about that.
Well, that's true too. So it gets, and with trines are very active in a way. They want, according to vibrational astrology's research, a trine needs that flow. It does anything to ensure that flow. So it doesn't sit on just eating bonbons. It's out there creating more bonbons so it can have bonbons. No, I'm being a little facetious here, but
now I want bonbons. But
yeah, but it wants that. So we're working with our thoughts and maybe we better go on.
Well, I really like that you brought up Juno. Just one last piece on that. Eclipses are beginnings and endings. So with Juno, it represents contracts. So what soul contracts are up for you now? Like where have you completed that mission? And where is it time to move on with something? And I think with Venus prominent in this chart as well, conjunct the North Node, like there's a lot of relationship dynamics coming forward now for us to see and work through and take action.
Good. Yes. And this kite, which is a grand trine, that's where there's three in generally the same element, although it can be out of sign, but same degree. And then there's another point that is sextile, and it looks like a kite. That may not be an example. But here we have a water grand kite with Mars in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces, and Vesta, who we're speaking of. We didn't speak about Vesta, but Vesta's our hearth, what we value, what we protect, that flame. It was very symbolic throughout early years. And then we have the kite. I don't think I put what the kite is, but it's Uranus. It's that sudden things.
Uranus is that, like the release from that grand trine. So the planets in the grand trine, Vesta, Mars, Saturn, they're in water. It's like this, as Noel Till would say, emotional self-sufficiency. This feels really good. I like being all these emotions, but do something with them. And Uranus is saying, surprise, ground it, do something with it. That's the way out, or the way to use that energy.
Good.
Yeah. And given that this is the sun and moon are in Aries, so it's a new moon in Aries, and this Aries energy wants to take action. And so
Definitely.
this is part of like that integration of the fire and the water, and how do we really take action on our own behalfs? What's correct for us as individuals moving forward? Yeah.
And again, it just emphasized everything there with the point of this wedge, as it's called, where Uranus again is mitigating whatever might be the two things that we're working with, the past of how we're organizing and what we did consider to be important details, and what really is part of the whole and how that fits in too.
In evolutionary astrology, having a planet sextile or trine the nodes being the karmic direction you're going, that helper planet is helping you get there. So Uranus in that position is saying, here's some surprises, do something with it. Right?
Yes. And that will continue, as we were noting, throughout the month. In the first quarter, which is coming up, just when is today? Today is the 6th, right? I think it's today. No, it was
yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Actually, so we're Friday.
Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're still working with a little bit of the past. And then, it's a crisis in action. So here we are, and you can see there was all the marches. There was Cory Booker. And other people supporting what is going on. So there's a lot of controversy, no news for the United States. We're born out of controversy, you could say. We seem to, most places are controversial. Talk a little bit about this, and then we'll go on, Amanda.
Before we move on to this, can I just make 2 points about the solar eclipse, if we could go back to that chart, just to kind of lay the foundation for the month. You mentioned the Mars Chiron square, and I just wanted to just talk about that briefly because it's such an exact square, and Mars rules that sun and moon. So this is a big deal for us. And kind of finding that emotional security to move forward. That's the Mars in Cancer. Mm-hmm. And to do the healing work and to really like fight for things. That's the
defend causes. Yes.
Yeah. It's a great expression of it.
You know what I find fascinating is that the fact that for the United States, natally, we just completed a cycle of Chiron returns at 20 degrees Aries, which was, I think the last was in December. And it's a ritual every 50 and a half years. We've done it now 4 to 5 times. We're still within that process. What you're bringing up is important because it's ruled by Mars. And here Mars is still in context directly in an action-oriented, like you say, to our...
Yeah. We have to talk about Eris right there with Chiron.
I mean, who belongs? Everybody belongs. And are you excluded? That's what...
And that speaks to Eris as well. Mm-hmm. Everybody's included. Or she's going to throw out a golden apple and start the next bit of chaos.
Or does anyway, yes. Yeah. Here we have solar eclipse. Let's move. We're going to trying to get, let's see, where are we?
But one other thing I just wanted to mention was that Venus conjunct the North Node. And with it, it's so important with the eclipse because this is like a karmic opportunity to address issues that we have around love, around self-worth, within our relationships, and spiritual growth that's affecting like our soul's purpose. Like, how is that interwoven with our relationships? So this is kind of the foundation that we're working with the solar eclipse that we're going to move forward with in this month and beyond.
And they stay in close contact. They stay in conjunction with each other. So you're right. Not only was it an emphasis, but it's going to stay there because Venus and Mercury are moving in retrograde together. You know, look at this. They're only 2 degrees apart right now, and they get 1 degree apart. They're both in Pisces.
Yeah, they both moved into Aries, and then they retrograded back into Pisces. And there's more information there in Pisces that they're absorbing, and they're touching the North Node, they're touching Saturn, they're touching Neptune, and making additional like transformation on this subtle kind of ethereal level that we're just absorbing it. Pisces is not the conscious. It's not conscious energy necessarily, right? And so absorbing it now, and when all those planets shift into Aries, it's the time to start bringing that out into the world.
Yeah, I know Saturn will be the one on April 26th. It's in another month.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that, Sue.
No, I appreciate it because it does bring us up to this one, Crisis in Action, which just passed. And we have during this time both Mars and the Moon out of bounds. So it has been very emotional. And when they're together and they're in Cancer, speaking of all what's important, our emotions, our home, our foundation, our family, but it wants to cut. Like it makes definite choices.
Yeah, and the first quarter moon is that, like you said, crisis in action. So it's about taking outward action. It's got more of a yang energy to it, and issues or conflicts that were seated in the new moon may come forward.
There's a lot of supportive energy too that we're experiencing now. You know, the sun connecting itself with our will and how we philosophize things. And then these other strong for action. We're really activating. We're feeling activated, as you've expressed, both of you, with formulating our values and formulating our ideas and in the big picture.
I noticed that Neptune and Pluto are building into their next sextile that happened for a very long time. I guess in the 1900s, they've coasted in that sextile for decades, and I wonder if this is the next one setting up.
I believe. Which ones are you? We'll
Neptune and
see.
Pluto, because they have a
Oh, they
cycle where
have been.
they do their harmonized thing for a little while because Pluto has this weird orbit that crosses Neptune's.
There is, I guess, this is the emotional. There's the grand water trine continues going on, but here it's with the out of bounds.
Yeah, and we've got the moon in that really sensitive Cancer sign, and here it is touching in with Mars and touching in with Chiron as well, squaring it, and so it could be a little bit testy. You know, it's there's that potential for being reactive or being defensive, and so just be aware of that for yourself and for others. And there's also just that emotional desire and need to move forward with that Moon Mars conjunction.
And there are two goddesses in this configuration, Vesta and Ceres, and they're both very concerned with taking care of things. Vesta keeps the fire lit, as you know, and Ceres, well, she's an agriculture goddess. She's like, we have to take care of the growing things. So it's a grand trine, which says ease, but there's a little bit of work stated here because the goddess is involved.
And grief and loss. It is working to protect what is perceived or experienced as grief and loss with that mythology that the rebirth process of fertility was broken. And so thank you, John Chinworth and Amanda Pierce. We will take a little getaway and come right back with Talk Cosmos, finishing up what's coming up. This is Powerhouse. We'll see you quickly. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We're currently in the period of Aries. By leaving a cycle based upon completion, the energy of Aries sparks initiation, creating action to separate into a new cycle of life. It's a fire sign, which means it will involve great emotion. And because separation may create resistance, it also takes great courage to break away to new ways of becoming.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to the Ananda Institute of Living Yoga, we cover the world of animals. This week, April 13th, it's our healing show, Best Bioenergetic Synchronization Technique, a Neuroenergetic Balancing, Rasmussen Reset, and Energy Code Sunday. Dr. Nels Rasmussen and Linda Rasmussen will be here to take your calls. Together, they can help you or your animal friends with emotional, behavioral, or physical issues. Hope you can join us. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Organic, free range, and fresh daily. Alternative Talk, 1150.
Hello, we're back. Let's see what we have. Amanda Pierce, and you can reach her at her Gmail. We all do our consultations, and John Chinworth, Skypath Astro. That was Amanda Moon Astrology at gmail.com. And John Chinworth at Skypath Astro. Myself, Talk Cosmos. A little bit about myself. I was featured about a dwarf planet series that I'm doing with Liz Machette, and that's on my playlist. In the past, we had another spring equinox vibrational astrology report that is fascinating with its major themes. And we did a very interesting experiential theater with Astrojam for both of the eclipses. And if you want another perspective on the Aries eclipse, go to archetypal symbols. But looking ahead, next week will be Adam Gainsbourg joining us for his Mars opposite Pluto. It's a dynamic that is affecting us. And then, of course, we have one of the U.S. global currents, which is an astrological perspective on events happening here and around the world, which is plenty. Thank you for everybody for subscribing, and whether that's to the newsletter or to the YouTube. 2 events that I bring up. Marie O'Neill of Padma Life Coaching has her virtual retreat on April 29th and 30th. You can look at that. It's Caring for the Soul. And also there is on Labor Day weekend a very wonderful first conference about vibrational astrology. Linda Barry is presenting it, and David Cochran will be joining. So for any of you that are curious, what is that really? You have a little knowledge, but you want to know about the gears of it. They have a beginner's track and an advanced track. It'll be exciting. Here we are, the full moon in Libra. Happens to be right on my moon. Thank you. I'm waiting because it's a release point. It's Amanda, share this.
Yeah, it's the full moon is, the new moon comes in and it's the darkness, and we're slowly gaining light. And at the full moon, we have full illumination and full exposure, and we can see things a little more clearly. So new perspectives are possible, and it's kind of a development point for the collective consciousness.
These are Aries point charts, thinking of worldwide. The time you can see is according to Washington, D.C. So on the 12th of April, the full moon will be at 8:22 p.m. Eastern time. There is a major action orientation here between the full moon itself with Chiron and Aries, a healing process with Mars.
And taking action with that, Mars is simply asking, what are you going to do? I mean, right?
Right.
What kind of action are you going to take? This is Libra Aries. You have a warrior and like a diplomat, balancing those energies.
Yeah, Mars it's already can be a bit of an instigator. And so in this configuration, it can add fuel to some fire. And, that Libra moon just wants us all to get along and everything to be peaceful. But there's stuff to work through here. And so areas where maybe we do want peace, we're going to have to act to ensure that peace can happen.
And I think a lot of it's about our philosophy, because here we have Jupiter with Ceres, and it is about what is lost, what is grieving in the world, and what's our place of it. How can I, as my self, my ego self, the sun, incorporate the whole, the people, the wounded, what's the voice? What is the voice of Jupiter? I know myself, I'm working with that a great deal. We have this show and I think we're doing a good job with our panel presenting it, but it's always the emphasis, like we're not just talking about archetypes, we're talking about meaningfulness. How does this apply? How can we help open up the opportunity in a brain soul? In a brain soul, does that make sense? In a soul's brain? Whatever, get brain and soul together.
In the myth of Persephone, Ceres, she's looking for her daughter Persephone, who Hades had taken to the underworld. And the first god that she went to, of course, is the king of the universe, Jupiter. And Jupiter's like, oh, I'm sorry, she ate the pomegranate seeds. I can't do anything.
No, it was
Pluto.
Pluto, not Jupiter. Pluto.
The first god that Ceres went to was Jupiter, and Jupiter said, "Sorry, it's out of my hands."
That's right. Sorry.
So
Right.
this speaks to that they're brother and sister actually, and Ceres is like getting this "I can't do anything" energy from Jupiter. I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't yes, and then Apollo was the first to have seen it, and so that's why he went to Jupiter, who said, "Yeah, sorry, I can't do this." However, then I'm just thinking this through because I love this.
Ceres
story.
is expecting some support from
but
the
went to
king of the
Venus. Adonis and Venus, I think, got together, and that's which Adonis is also fertility of growth and that. And let me think. Okay, very good. You're right.
Can we just talk about Neptune and Aries? Neptune has moved into Aries, and it actually moved into Aries in the first quarter phase. So, and let me look at that date, March 30th.
Yeah, the day afterwards. Yes.
Yeah. Indeed. So I don't know if you all are feeling it, but I am feeling that shift into more of, it's like the fire of Aries has burned off this fog of the Neptune in Pisces. You know, Neptune in Pisces, it's really ethereal and it's Neptune in its own sign. And there's so much potential for downloads. And now it's like that kind of fog is burning off, and it's like, okay, where am I going? Who am I in this world? There's like there's a reclamation through that fire of our divine spark.
Yes.
Like, you know, like
where are we? Individual spirituality rather than lost in this crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I wonder what the shift will be in organized religions around the world with this kind of energy going on. I'm very curious to see.
It'll be interesting, like across the board, how this is going to play out. How is this going to play out in the workforce, in politics? So, yeah, there's just this, it's that archetype of the spiritual warrior, like fighting for justice, fighting for things that align with your soul.
Right. And then the allowing of everybody else to be able to align with what they need to do spiritually as well. And can we do that?
Yeah. So there's this, and this Neptune in Aries goes through 2039. So we've got, it's going to bump back into Pisces again, but it'll come back.
It's a long transit, 14 years.
Yeah, it's a 14-year transit.
It's one of those decisive settings, you could say, in a play. If you had a theater play, an act, it's a long-standing it's not just even a chapter, it's a whole epic. It's an epic.
Yeah, and we're just at the first degree, so we're just awakening into that warrior mystic position. And so it's still kind of coming forward for us, and that comes into the first quarter moon where there's some action being taken. And now, again, here we are in the full moon, a little more illumination coming forward around it, what that is for us.
It is building here. We've gone through a couple of the slides as you're talking because it illustrates it. And again, there is those stelliums, this time decisively in Pisces, since Mercury is now direct, but it's still returning from its visit in Pisces. Of the whole of what's the womb, what seed am I going to bring forth? But look at this. Isn't this incredible? This interconnection between many viewpoints. There's two grand kites, as we call it. There's many forces that are interacting with our Mars, go ahead, somebody, please.
This would have been a grand sextile if we had another planet up there in the upper left, but it's not quite there yet.
The next quarter, it's moving.
Yeah. This is again evolutionary, looking at the nodes. That's the karmic direction, and remember the trines and sextiles to those are the helper planets. So moving forward, you got Uranus and Mars and Juno helping out. So you have this team of players that are are helping you out. They're giving you good energy to get things done that you want to do. Right?
Yeah.
Thinking outside of the box with Uranus, taking charge with Mars, and, well, thinking about others, Juno.
And I'm thinking, what you had just combining the two of you here, this is really a very constructive with Neptune in Aries, with these connections happening that we're able to productively, more easily release that part of the South Node that is obstructing, because we're not going to get rid of it. That's our foundation. But that because Virgo discerns, and we have already Jupiter collecting so much information with other energies, but on a constructive basis, we're able to apply it towards that whole of the group. I can see that what you're talking about with these connections.
I love that Mars is trining that North Node. It's putting a lot of energy into where we're going. And sometimes, when you put energy towards something in life, something else naturally kind of has to move along. And because there's just it's just a physics position. Like, you've got the energy focused here, then this is it's going to dissipate. And so with focusing that energy on that North Node, the South Node, we're naturally going to start releasing some of the things that aren't serving us there.
John, do you want to talk about the angel wings, the fact that we've got these two wedges or points of Thales that Susan Thompson?
Let me think here. The angel wings, I think there are like 12 configurations, one for each sign, and the angel wings totally matches Aquarius because there's a missing point on the other end, and like Aquarius being the 11th sign, it's not quite 12, so it's a little bit off. And the angel wings also remind you of Ganymede, which is the original symbol for Aquarius. So there's Aquarian energy, just like luck and fortune and good things coming.
And the points, wouldn't they be, in a sense, the South Node and Uranus, because those are the kites? Or those would be the wedges, or it is that Thales point. Anyway, we're getting into too much astronomy maybe here and things, but that's good. So it's a very productive coalition between the forces.
Think of having an angel sense of what's right and what can be done that's right, and gifts that you have that you can use to do the right thing. Do the right thing is a great phrase for angel wings, I think.
The powers ahead are so strong, and we will see in the last quarter a beautiful, we trust, energetic pattern. But here we have what we call a mystic rectangle. Automatically has these other wedges if you take any of the triangles, but all the energies are going forward. So everything we've talked about, our alliances, how we're discerning them this is a theme going through the whole month. And I think really the idea of what you've brought in, both of you, but this idea of Neptune in Aries is like what it's sprouting, and in a snake year of deep transformation, to bring one. And the other planets, for instance, Uranus is going to be changing signs, and it's pivotal right now. Saturn shortly, at the end of this month, will change signs, and it's pivotal too. So, and in fact, they're in a close sextile. Saturn, the contraction and the expansion. No, that's not I'm getting confused with Jupiter. But anyway, the moment of now and what's important are very much aligned.
I can speak to Uranus in this chart. In astrology, we always think, oh no, Uranus, something's going to fall or break or an accident or look out. But maybe in a sextile trine that Uranus has to the nodes, sometimes you try a door and surprise, it opened. Here's a surprising opportunity, right?
These can be beautiful shifts. It doesn't have to be bad with Uranus. And especially when we're looking at the sextiles or trines, it's like, there's a little more ease, and Uranus just wants us to break free from those patterns that just keep happening and that we have trouble getting out of. And so sometimes it just aligns and there's a lot of ease with it.
I love listening to you both. let's get to the third quarter. This will be on the 20th. Now that's in 2 weeks. So we still have the full moon to go through. But this third quarter is, Amanda?
Well, yeah. So we're now in like that cultivating stage, and there's a crisis in consciousness. So it is a square. The moon is square the sun, but it's more on the yin dynamic. So it's more an internal shift that we're making, of readjustments and review of what all has happened this past month for ourselves, and letting go of things that aren't quite working, so that we can start fresh with the next cycle.
John, did you have any thoughts that you?
Well, I just think of the seasons with the moons. These 4 phases of the moons, and the third quarter lines up with fall. So you have that visual of the things letting go, getting ready for the end of the cycle.
Well, for myself, I'm grateful to recognize there's a crisis in action, which is the first one. Something has been born and wants to emerge. And then here we've seen the full flower, and we've let pruning some, and we're cultivating the rest. But it's a crisis in consciousness. What does this all mean, perhaps? And where are we going to conclude things? And we have 2 dispositors, because I happen to be more of the modern, but I am well recognizing there is the traditional. So we have Saturn and Uranus, both quite different and compatible in a certain way, but
wow.
So we have just between itself the very fact that it is a square with the moon. The moon is with Pluto. It's transforming things, and it's emotional, but it's not just emotional. It's on the group collective. It's networking, and it's out of bounds with the moon. So people are and it's a fixed sign, so there could be big opinions, but it's working with the collective of the whole, isn't it? Because Aries is who's included and who's not. And Mars, we're going to cut things. It's
Aquarius is a bit of, we call the genius, or the person who gets exiled from the community because they're so weird. So having those together in Aquarius is like, allow for some strange, we have to think about new things that might feel strange to me, but we can think about them, be okay, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And moon is out of bounds. And I think one of the things that Aquarius gets stuck in, it's a fixed sign. So it can be very stuck in its thoughts and ways of thinking about things. So I like the out of bounds to kind of at least get it out of its own way and get even weirder. So I like that. And this chart with all these red lines, that looks a little scary, but big picture, I mean, when we're going to look at that in a little bit, I know, but big picture, I don't think it's quite as scary as it's coming across here.
And the themes have continued. If you look at Jupiter, that is our philosophy, our law, the big picture, other cultures, it's still working in action with Ceres, which is loss and food abundance and of that. I mean, the themes haven't really left us. Some of them gotten a little tighter, and some of them have and we're still looking at our alliances very strongly. But here, this is the Kundala or something. It's like, oh my goodness, I have
amazing.
Seen a 6-pointed star. It has every aspect. It has mystic rectangles, grand trines, connected. Every little point is connected. It's powerful.
This is the 12 configurations for the 12 signs. The grand sextile is based on Virgo. So it's like a net where it's like machinery, where all these systems are working really well together. It's like a cog in a machine. We're working together here. We're in harmony. We can really produce.
And it's just before Saturn goes into Aries. Next quarter, we'll use Saturn as Aries as a theme in all of this, because Neptune went into Aries this month on the 30th. Well, actually, just the last of the month. And then on the 26th of April, Saturn goes into Aries.
I love a grand sextile because it's got all this creative energy to it. There's all this ease and this balance, and it can bring opportunities for abundance and success that with less effort than typical. So look for that. And I think that's one of the keys is really to leverage the opportunities that come forward during this time period, because it won't last forever. And so there's a need to kind of be proactive with it. And also it's this, a grand sextile does not happen without those oppositions within it. And so it's important to recognize that there's sometimes the good is not always just the easy. Like those oppositions, like they provide some tension that kind of help this flow and move along.
It's a matter of finding making lemonade out of lemons a lot of times. And that may be simple because everybody has, I've just realized, different ideas of lemonade. A lot of sugar, no, put in apple juice, put in stevia. I mean, just speaking of recipes here.
In a grand
so maybe
sextile,
that's our recipe.
In a grand sextile, are there 6 planets or are there 3 oppositions going on?
Yeah.
Both are true.
Right.
But there's wedges, right? There's those point of thales. So thinking about this or that, we have a helper. Now, the helper may be something out of the box, like Uranus, or it could be action, or it could be releasing something, because every single point is one of those. It's just incredible. It's like everybody's in the table, just like the 3 of us, but we have 3 more. We have to.
And there's so much balance here that we can really do deep integration work around what's been coming forward, which I just love that after having a pair of eclipses, So it's great for us evolving and growing, and as we're stepping into this new period with Neptune and Aries and figuring out where we're going.
Oh, it is so true. And it's emotional. No, not to forget that. Every time you have change or adjustments. And interestingly, I was talking with some people, and it seemed like the 3 of us, we were doing a different energy system. And home seemed to be the predominant factor, because I keep thinking, what's the theme here? But it really does get quite personal. It is our home, my life. What do I do to sustain it? And do I need to do anything to sustain it? Not everybody has that luxury these days.
Sorry, Sue.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to note that Mars has now moved into Leo, which is just such a better placement for it. It's just so much more ease. Even that Mars Pluto opposition, Mars is no longer in Cancer, so it's going to be able to work with it a little bit more, and there's more creativity possible with it.
And along with the fire sign of Neptune, Aries, Leo, Aries. That's what, if I'm catching, yes.
Yeah, definitely. And Venus is now direct too.
And all the planets are direct as of the full moon. It'll last for the last of the month.
Yeah. So lots of space for forward movement.
Yeah, things do change. The cosmos has changed. And I keep thinking of the wave and the point. It's so quantum. If you look at the wave, you get stuck at that point just like a photograph, but yet it's the whole video going on.
Astrologers, we look at individual points and we look at everything in context of everything else. We weigh so many things. I think about astrologers when they're speaking or they're reading charts, their brains are just weighing so much.
Although living in
I like that about what we
day,
do.
yeah, and then again, it's experiencing the day I'm not always conscious, oh, this is happening or that's happening, but somehow in the back of your brain, you can remember the dynamics. So the dynamics are moving between the seed right now. Well, what is the seed? Who am I? What am I bringing forth? And to have courage. You have support. There's support in unknown factors. The unknown is supportive. I think maybe that's the biggest message.
I think that's maybe one of the messages that was possible through all that Pisces that we've been through. And so hopefully we can bring that forward when we're standing on our own in all that Aries energy.
And it is in the north node always. So it hasn't left us. It's just a new context of how to apply it.
Right.
Well, thank you, John Chenworth and Amanda Pierce.
Thank you.
Talk Cosmos. We'll see you again. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
An insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.